is going on, everybody? Hello. Happy Monday. Sorry, there's supposed to be some music. There it is. Guys, we have a fantastic guest for you on today. And I know I don't normally do guests, so you know how much this means to me, but it is the one, the only Yabapmatt, our fearless leader for Splinterlands. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing real good. Thanks for, breaking your no guest rule to have me on.
No, man. I don't know. It's just funny. People are always like, "Oh, why don't you get more guests on the show?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I've never had a reason for it. It's just it is what it is. But thank you for being here because I'm really excited for our conversation. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
So here's the thing, guys. I approached Matt. It was a while ago. We were just talking about this. So this was before the election, and Matt is actually very generous with his time. He goes on a lot of like shows and live streams, and he talks Splinterlands all day, every day. And so I pitched to him. I was like, all right, I want to do a conversation with you that has nothing to do with Splinterlands because you've dropped all these like little breadcrumbs and Easter eggs of stuff that shows that you just have like a depth of knowledge when it comes to Bitcoin and the crypto space overall. And it's like, I would love to hear more about that. It's just every time you go on a show, people are like, hey, when land, right? Or when this. So that is my goal, to not dive into that. Maybe we'll get to some Splinterland stuff at the end. But Matt, if you're open to it, I think we can just jump right in.
Let's do it.
So, okay, I had a list of topics here. First and foremost, it's quite serendipitous that there was a delay because Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high today. I just saw we're at 107, which is great. And without Bitcoin, like this whole industry wouldn't exist, or it would look very different. So I'm curious to know, I learned something from you a couple of years ago, and I listened to a ton of Bitcoin related stuff, but you taught me the idea of looking at Bitcoin as a savings tool rather than investment. And I heard that from you first, and this was several years ago. And now I'm hearing all these different like influencers talking about like, oh, Bitcoin is savings, and then something like MicroStrategy is investing, right? So like this whole narrative is coming on. I'm like, oh, I heard that from Matt a couple of years ago. So I'm just curious, where is it that you like, what are your resources when you are like trying to learn more or get more into Bitcoin or understand concepts better? Whether they're resources, books, podcasts, influencers, thinkers in the space, like what helps you inform, like, and I'm talking about Bitcoin specifically.
Yeah. I think one of my advantages is I started a long time ago, learning about it. There was definitely a bunch of podcasts. There were people like Andreas Antonopoulos, reading the Bitcoin Standard from Siphidian, and stuff like that. But more than that, it was more just, reading Twitter at the time, or articles, posts, Reddit, whatever it was. There's like a ton more content now, which is like good and bad. So as far as the savings tool thing, like that wasn't, my original idea. Most of this stuff isn't, unless it comes to Splinterland stuff. But it's more just like taking all the ideas from other people and trying it out myself over the years, and seeing what kind of worked for me. So, like for me personally, I'm not a trader. I didn't do well every time I've ever sold Bitcoin. Didn't go well. So it was like, what was the actual problem that Bitcoin solved for me? And it turned out it was retirement savings. It took me a long time to understand that and get to the point of like putting my retirement savings in Bitcoin, which was much crazier in 2017 than it is today. So that was just after like being involved in the space and learning about it and trying things and losing money and different stuff. Like eventually I just arrived to like, oh, retirement savings is a problem or a pain point for me. Wait, hold on. Oh, my computer just like flashed for a sec. Sorry about that.
I can still hear you.
Yeah. In any case, like I had done real estate investing and tried like, stock investing and all this stuff. And just like, it was just a big project of like trying to save for retirement, which was a real pain. And it like, I, at just some point with all this research realized like, oh, this is, you just put it all in Bitcoin and you forget about it. You don't have to do anything other than secure it properly. And so that, now now that was like one problem solved, taken care of. You buy Bitcoin, you wait, until you're ready to retire, 10 years, whatever, and you're good.
When did you come to that realization? Because you've been in Bitcoin longer than me. I'm part of like the 2017 class bull run. I think you were mining well before that. So like, how long did it take you to come to that realization?
It was in 2017.
Oh, wow.
That was the year. And yeah, it was like I first started with Bitcoin in 2012, but I didn't it was more just a little cool thing I followed, and did some mining and sold some coins and thought, it was like, oh man, I just made a few $1,000 from running this thing on my computer in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't understand it. Didn't understand. Yeah, I mean, that's typically people's issue when they first get into it. They don't really, it seems like, oh, some hot new tech stock or some cool new tech thing or whatever it is. You just don't understand the monetary revolution that's happening. And how even today, we're still super early in it. So it took me 5 years. And I had to learn, it wasn't just about Bitcoin. I didn't know anything about money. I didn't know anything about finance. I didn't know anything about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't know what had anything about the dollar or the Fed or inflation, just literally nothing about any of this. So you can't understand why Bitcoin is so important if you don't know any of that stuff. So it really took a long time to get me to that point.
Yeah, so you mentioned something that was another thing that I feel like I heard from you several years ago before it really started to crystallize for me, which was this idea of the government mandates 2% inflation, which really just forces everybody to gamble in the stock market. And I was like, oh, I never, investing was always this thing that I got early on because I'm like, oh, in order to beat inflation, you have to do it. But I never actually got to the point where I'm like, wait, why does inflation exist in the first place? Why is it government or Fed mandated? And I don't know, just hearing you kind of say it explicitly, it clicked another thing where I'm just like, oh, okay, they just want everybody to join the casino because there's a whole slew of people in Wall Street that make a ton of money from fees and making sure it's opaque enough that people don't understand it. And so everybody just throws their money in. Sorry, go ahead.
There was an article I read that really opened my mind up to that specific topic. And I don't remember, it was years ago. Good. So, I apologize to whoever wrote that article. It was great. If I knew who it was, I would link and give them credit. But that was probably the biggest single thing that I needed to understand, was kind of what you just said about inflation. And everyone has been really brainwashed into this mindset that inflation, prices go up over time, and that is normal. It's the sun rises every day, and prices go up over time. Of course, my grandparents bought whatever for a nickel back then that cost $10 now. It's just it's just the way the world works. Everyone, you think that's just a natural law of nature, and when you really understand that it's not, and it's supposed to really work the opposite way, where through technological advancement prices are supposed to go down. It's all completely 100% government fabricated, or whoever controls the money, it's fabricated by them, and who it benefits is people who have debt, right? We have a debt-based economy. The government is $36 trillion in debt, and if money is getting less and less valuable, it's easier to get money to pay back that debt. So it really makes sense from a government perspective to inflate the money supply because, they can, and it just makes them, allows them to just spend and spend and spend and not have to worry about anything. I mean, it's really modern monetary theory. But when you as an individual wrap your head around the consequences of this, and you talked about it a little bit, it's people are supposed to be able to save money. You're supposed to work, and you're supposed to make money, and you spend less than you make, and you just save it, in whatever currency it is. That is how the world should ideally work. And since the government purposely inflates the money supply, it means you shouldn't save your money. You need to invest it. Otherwise, it's just guaranteed to lose value over time. And so it just forces everyone around the world to invest, when they shouldn't really, only investors should be investing. Regular people working should not be investing. And since people aren't investors, they don't research companies or opportunities and everything. They just go, okay, S&P 500 index fund. And that's just basically, you take all your money and you invest it in all the biggest companies. You don't know anything about them. Are they good investments? Are they high price? Are they low price? What are they doing? It's just like trillions and trillions of dollars just have to go somewhere. So it's just like, let's pick all the biggest companies and put money in them. And that makes, it just distorts everything. A lot of people also do other things like real estate. So that's why real estate has a huge monetary premium, it's called. It's like, people are just investing in real estate. So it means when people want to buy a house to actually live in, they have to compete with all this money that just needs to go somewhere. So completely, utterly distorts financial markets. It leads to things like the great financial crisis in 2008. So this concept is probably the number one thing that pushed me to realize that you just save in something like Bitcoin, and it kind of fixes all of that, basically.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you now, and it's interesting to see, especially because you mentioned real estate. A lot of the real estate folks are getting it, right? Where it's just like, okay, there's a premium here, but it's not just that. I mean, there's a premium in bonds, there's a premium in the market too, right? Because everybody's just put their money in there because they've had to. We've never had a decentralized store of value / currency, right? It's still being determined. But just the opportunity to do that now, you're going to see Bitcoin essentially eat everything because of it in many ways. And I'm sure it'll extend it to crypto as well. Are you familiar with Jeff Booth by any chance, or do you listen to him?
Did he write the Price of Tomorrow?
Price of Tomorrow,
I didn't read it, but I'm familiar with it.
So it's funny because I haven't read it either, but I've listened, like when he was doing his like little press tour, I've listened to, I don't know, so many interviews with him. So it was that same kind of concept where like deflation should be the default, because as technology gets better, things should become cheaper over time. And you see that in certain like industries and areas, but on the whole, there's like this overlord making sure that the money supply is still inflating at 2%, which really just messes things up quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to put it exactly, but it's like inflation. It's so hard because I feel like I understand these things, but it's hard to get the point across. But the economists will say that we have to have inflation because otherwise the economy will like grind to a halt, right? Yeah. We need to encourage people to spend money and do all this. And yes, with our current debt-based economy, it would be very bad, but that's only because we've built a system around it not happening, right? Yeah. That's the only reason it's bad. If we could like kind of start over, it wouldn't be bad. And they say like, yeah, people, if money was not something that lost value over time, but in fact gained money over time, people would spend less of it. And that's good because, it's not like they would spend nothing. People are not going to literally starve in their house because they refuse to spend their money. Like but it's going to make people actually think a little bit more. What do I really need to buy? Right? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to make an investment in a company, it's because I think it's going to perform better than the money, right? Yeah. Not just like, I just need to, it's like money's a hot potato. It's like, go here, go this, buy this, do that, invest here. Like that's what the government wants, but it's bad. And it would be much better if money was something good that you wanted to hold and you only spent it when you really had a need or you really thought there was a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm. No, that's actually a great point. If you're familiar with Jack Mallers from Strike, he said something recently that made me realize something, because you see a lot of companies that are now buying Bitcoin and putting it on their balance sheet, right? And so for him, he's like, okay, Strike is doing this now. And every time we make a decision, whether it's an acquisition or to hire someone or whatever, we know that Bitcoin goes up X% per year, right? And so therefore just holding Bitcoin would do that for us. So now we've become incredibly thoughtful about, hey, with this acquisition or this person or this investment, will that return more? And he's like, that kind of thinking is going to become very pervasive across everything else, right? Where it's just like, if you have something that's going up at this rate, it makes you much more thoughtful about how you're going to spend your money, or more specifically, how you're going to invest your money, right? People will only start chasing opportunities that can offer them something better than just saving the money over time, rather than buying like a lot of these zombie companies that people are forced to invest in or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and me personally, and Splinterlands, like we think that way, right? Have both have investments in Bitcoin, and it's like, well, if we want to, like, I don't want to sell any of that Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So if we're going to, it better really be like a really good opportunity.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you? I don't know how much you could share if you're willing to, but like now seeing a lot of these companies with their Bitcoin treasury strategy, is that something that Splinterlands would adopt, or is kind of adopting, or has adopted? Like, how do you view that for the company?
Well,
And,
I
and
mean,
let me preface this by saying, like, long term. I know that there's been some
yeah.
financial stuff, but like ideally, how would you like to operate that if you could?
I mean, we already are on a Bitcoin standard in effect that we, keep most of our funds in Bitcoin, and that's something that has hurt us at certain times and helped us at certain times, and it's part of what we're working on as our treasury management strategy. As far as adopting what some of these other companies like MicroStrategy are doing, you need profits to do that. We're currently not a profitable organization yet. And so, but once we are, then I want to make sure to operate something like that, right? To make sure we take care. In the past, we didn't really take care of our funds very well. One of the things that helped to get us to the situation that we're in today. But as things turn around and we are profitable, I 100% want to adopt either Bitcoin or generally crypto strategy that helps really preserve and grow our capital. And part of that is what we just talked about, is being extremely careful what we spend it on, because it needs to be a better return than just holding it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I want to use this as a transition point, because just to shift gears a little bit in terms of talking about like some of the struggles that the team has faced. You dropped this very briefly in, I think, the last town hall, where you mentioned it by name, Operation Choke Point 2.0. But for anybody who's seen the Mark Andreessen episode on Joe Rogan, I don't know when it came out, but it was a little while ago. Since he kind of talked very openly about it, I've seen crypto founders, tech founders all across the board now coming out with their stories. And I wanted to give you an opportunity, whatever it is that you can or feel comfortable sharing, like what was that struggle like for you guys? Because I'm sure, like, that's not something that you can just come on the town hall and talk about. That's probably a very like internal struggle, right? So what was that like during that time period, and is it better now, or is it like something that you're looking forward to once new administration is in?
Yeah, I mean, first I can confirm 100% that that's a real thing. So Splinterlands has had two banks that have closed our account with no warning and no explanation. It very clearly seems to be that reason, that they, for whatever reason, finally like figured out that we are related to crypto at all. Don't ask any questions at all, and are just like, sorry, your account's closed. Luckily, we've been able to find other banks and keep going. But so it's like, yeah, I mean, it's a real thing and it's a huge problem. Very, in my opinion, illegal, immoral. And it's sort of a way for politicians to go after industries or people that they don't like, without having to make a law and go through the normal process, right? It's like, well, we can't make this thing illegal because people, we have to deal with those pesky, citizens that are the ones behind, the laws and things like that. But how can we go after them anyway?
Yeah.
Right.
How can we make their lives very difficult?
Yeah. It's just like behind the scenes, tell the banks, hey, don't work with these people. Right. It also highlights why, having, independent decentralized money is so important, because then if everyone just used crypto, then this wouldn't even be an avenue of attack that's available. But it is very real. It happened to us, just like so many other people that posted on it. Luckily it was just more of a inconvenience, in that we were able to get other accounts. I think it helps that we're not like a financial services provider. We're just a game. But I know it's been, huge problems for other companies. But it seems like that's all at an end now. I mean, so, like Trump or not, there's no way to say that this incoming administration is not a huge positive for anyone in the crypto industry. That 100% includes myself personally and Splinterlands. So, I can't obviously affect results of an election one way or another, but I am, happy at least that part is working out very much in our favor. And it also gets me extremely excited for what might happen next year. A bull market year with a pro Bitcoin and crypto government. I mean, that's never happened. Yeah. So it's kind of like we don't even know what to possibly expect next year. But my goal is to make sure Splinterlands is well positioned to capitalize off whatever happens.
Gotcha. Well, actually, like related to that then, and again, I politics unfortunately has become such a divisive thing. So we're not, without getting into it, as you said, there's no denying that the Trump administration coming in is the more crypto friendly one. So with that coming in, with what we've heard in terms of, strategic Bitcoin reserve, you're seeing that not just at the national level, but the state level now. Mm-hmm. I think I saw some things about, Russia wanting to introduce it because we're talking about it. Like, where do you see Bitcoin go? Like, are you willing to throw out a random price target of where you think we could end up this cycle, or what? How do you see what this? Because again, you've been in the space longer than I have, but how do you see what all of these stars aligning, we'll call it, and how that plays out over the next 12, 24, 36 months? Like what are you expecting? And again, there's no predictions, this is not financial advice. I'm just curious how you view this.
Yeah, I'm terrible at dollar value number predictions. I have for, a while said many times that I'm very confident Bitcoin is going to be well over $1 million, within the next decade or so. That I think that's one that I would go on the record saying that I believe.
I feel the same.
Yeah. As far as this particular cycle, I have no idea, and no idea in any direction, right? Mm-hmm. So normally I would be, have some type of upside target at least, but and last cycle it probably would have been higher than it ended up getting to, 69,000 or whatever. I definitely thought it was gonna go higher. This time, it's just with the stuff that we just talked about, it's just nothing we've ever seen. It's so different. I mean, the biggest financial companies, there's ETFs. I mean, sailors going nuts. We have a government that's talking about buying Bitcoin. There's actual bills in states, state cover. I mean, it's just it is just so beyond off the charts crazy compared to the past, where the government is literally attacking everybody they can. And no large companies or organizations were even touching the thing and just talking about it being illegal drug money or whatever. It's just such a 360 that, or 180, I meant.
Yeah.
Excuse my my poor math there. Such a 180 from what we've seen in the past that I have no freaking clue what is going to happen. But I'll tell you one thing: I'm not selling my Bitcoin.
Same. It's funny because whenever I hear Bitcoiners all of a sudden talk about hyper Bitcoinization, super cycle, I'm like, this sounds like the top, but to a certain extent, I don't know any this time. You know what I mean?
Well, the difference is it depends. Yes, the people on crypto Twitter, the Bitcoin maxis, they're saying that stuff, but go out in the world, nobody cares.
I know
nobody cares. And I remember in 2017 and in 2021. It wasn't like that. Everyone cared.
Yeah.
They were talking about, this stuff and whether NFTs or prices or whatever it was, good or bad or anything. It was just the general conversation. And now nobody cares. So that means to me, we haven't even started to see things get crazy yet.
Yeah, I shared this a couple of weeks ago on the stream, but I have a normie friend, right after the election, Bitcoin took off. And I was just talking with her, and again, she doesn't know anything about this space, and I was like, you know what? Hey, you'd be a perfect person. Are you familiar with what Bitcoin is? And she's like, I mean, I've heard of it. And I was like, okay, how much do you think a Bitcoin costs today? And at that time, it was over $70,000. She's like, I don't know. I was like, don't look anywhere. There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious to get your specific opinion as somebody who's just caught up in the day to day of life and kind of like working through things. And she's like maybe $600. And I was like, we're still early.
Yeah,
Wild.
It's not. I mean, there was some news stuff about 100K.
Yeah.
But that's like, it was all over everywhere, I feel like, in 2021. I mean, it wasn't maybe not Bitcoin, but like NFTs and things. Like everyone was saying NFTs. Everybody, random people talking about NFTs. I was like, even though they don't know anything about it or how to get one or whatever. But yeah, so like there's going to be some point probably in this cycle, and it's going to be like the biggest news story, and it's going to be all over, and everyone's going to be talking about it. Is that going to be a top? I have no idea, but we're not anywhere there yet. People who think like this is the top.
Yeah, I agree. Wrong. Well, so let's pivot now, because one of the other topics that I'd sent you to cover is the like NFT space that was so hot in 2021, and I know that this is a space that you were quite not big in, but like you were following quite a bit, and it was the genesis or the idea for Rooney, which I'm not, I was never into the whole NFT thing. The only NFT on Ethereum that I own is Rooney, and I'm curious, like, how do you view that space now? Have you kept up with it, and how are you thinking that it's going to evolve in this upcoming cycle?
Well, I mean, to be clear, like Splinterlands is an NFT project. So, NFTs are not just PFP collections on Ethereum. So, yeah, I was into NFTs since 2017 when CryptoKitties was kind of the first project that really hit the mainstream as an NFT project. And that's when I was like, oh, this would be so cool if we had a trading card game with this concept. And I think it, with 2021 and 22, it's just the normal way these things go. When there's like a new hot thing, everyone kind of goes extremely nuts about it for a little while. And it's just like when the internet, the .com bubble, like a new thing, you make a company and call it something.com and you get billions of dollars, and then you do nothing and then it fails. Like, I don't know why this is the way things work, but it is.
Yeah.
So the same thing with NFTs. It's like really amazing, awesome new thing. Everyone went absolutely crazy with it a couple years ago, and then the craziness goes away, and then from that the real projects build and emerge, and it becomes a normal, not crazy thing slowly over time. So that's where I see NFTs and most of the crypto projects in general going. Like the main craziness is over. There might be new things that come out, that there's a craziness in, but in general, like, we'll just start to see the real good projects that make good use of NFTs and not just pet rocks that don't do anything. The goal is for Splinterlands to be one of the leaders in that area.
So when it comes to some of the other, some of those like hotter PFP projects that were out there, like, are you still following them, or is it now where we have hopefully gotten to the point where, hey, a JPEG that doesn't do anything is going to have its proper place, and hopefully something like a Rooney that actually does do something in a game is going to be repriced appropriately? Not saying that it's going to go to crazy amounts, but it's just like people understand that there has to be value tied into something rather than it just being digital art.
Yeah, I mean, well, so yes, I still follow the space. I mean, I myself bought a lot of those things, and I like to participate in this stuff because I enjoy it. So it's funny because like Bored Apes are still like 40 grand or something, and it's like, oh, they're dead, that's a dead project, and like whatever. And I'm like, if you take a step back, that people are paying 40 grand at the minimum or whatever it is now, it's around there for like a monkey picture, it's still insane, right? Yeah. So it's all a kind of a matter of perspective. So and it means there is actually a lot of value there. It's basically just being in a club. I mean, and people like that, it's like a big social aspect. They have Ape Fest and different things and whatever. So like, I would never say that those things don't have value or utility. But I do think it's hard. You can't just throw out a new PFP project because it takes a while to build up that type of value. So back in the day, you could just throw out any new PFP project and people dumped money into it. In part of the craziness, like that stuff has gone away. Yeah, and I think the focus is going to be on the real valuable ones, and the market price does show the value. So there is a lot of value in being in that Bored Ape Club, for example, or Pudgy Penguins or whatever it is. But there's only a relatively few of them that manage to capture that value from the thousands and thousands of projects. And yeah, I mean, my hope and expectation is that gaming is going to be a huge driver of the next wave of NFTs and crypto in general.
Gotcha. Well, dude, you're making this so easy for me. I sent Matt a bunch of like topics earlier.
I'm not even looking at them. So if
no, I know,
making
but
it easy,
it's just like this is exactly where I wanted to go next. Where I'm like, okay, we talked a lot about gaming, but I'm actually just curious if there's any other spaces or themes or just whatever it is within crypto that you're following now, stuff that's come up, whether it's AI or DeepIn. There's always like something new for the cycle, and I'm curious if anything has caught your interest outside of gaming.
Yeah, one of the things that bothers me is like I have taken on so much more work and responsibility with Splinterlands. Obviously, taking over as CEO and then us having to let a lot of people go means that I need to spend a whole ton more time working on it. And I don't have the time I used to have to go like explore all this stuff. And there's so much. So I'm not super knowledgeable on all the AI stuff that's happening and the DeepIn stuff. It's unfortunate because I would otherwise like to be, really get deeply involved in that stuff. Obviously you don't have to be very involved in AI to understand it's going to be like super transformative. How exactly, I'm not really sure. What projects exactly, I'm not really sure. The only other thing like I personally sort of invest in, when it comes to crypto is, I don't know if you heard of Thorchain and their Rune token.
I'm familiar with it, but if you want to just give a little, like a brief thing for folks.
It's really like the kind of like the first and only cross-chain decentralized exchange, if I put that properly. So it's like there's Uniswap and PancakeSwap and all those things, but they can only swap tokens on Ethereum or on Binance Smart Chain or on whatever blockchain they're on. And it so it started for me, like I really try to avoid using centralized exchanges wherever possible. In many cases it's not possible from the US, or very difficult. And I like to a lot of times take gains from other cryptocurrencies and put them into Bitcoin, in cold storage that I hold myself. And that is often difficult to do through centralized exchanges. And so Thorchain was a way that I could just say like swap ETH for native Bitcoin right to my hardware wallet completely anonymously, completely decentralized, anonymous fashion. And there's no third-party custodians or anything like that involved. And when I did that for the first time, it was like kind of magical experience that was just like never possible before. And they're again still very early and they're integrating lots of different chains, but like over time, I just think like that's going to start replacing centralized exchanges for a ton of people and a ton of money, as the way to swap cryptos. Even things like wrapping and unwrapping Bitcoin to wrapped Bitcoin. Like that's something I also do from time to time, because if you wrap your Bitcoin, onto Ethereum, you can borrow against it and things like that, which, the whole DeFi, like borrowing against your crypto is something that also kind of like really changed my life. But it's extremely difficult to do, and it requires like KYC and all this stuff. And now with Thorchain, it's just like super simple. You just swap your Bitcoin for wrapped Bitcoin or vice versa. So that's like one of the very few other projects that I personally use and like, and invest in.
I learned something new today. I did not know that about Thorchain, so I'm going to take a look at it now for sure.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of crazy when you kind of look into it and really understand how it works and how the Rune token is integrated. It's and there's the In Leo project on Hive has worked
I'm familiar with it.
they've been working with Maya protocol to get like decentralized swapping of their Leo token, and then they have the ability to swap Hive for other tokens like Bitcoin or whatever. So Maya is a fork of Thorchain, that some people made to support, like a smaller fork version that supports other tokens that Thorchain, doesn't support yet. So just, a way that the Thorchain technology at least is being integrated into the Hive ecosystem. And also, they're working on adding, I think the SPS and DEC are already supported, and it will like automatically, like you can go on in the Leo DEX, I think, and like I think you can swap like SPS for Bitcoin or USDC, and it, there's probably not a ton of liquidity,
Sure.
but it does use the Thorchain technology under the hood to make that happen.
That's fascinating. I think I'm going to have to look into that because I'm sure a lot of Splinterlands folks would be very interested in learning more. A lot of the questions that I get are, what's the best way to get money into or out of the game, right? And it's like Hive Engine, right, is cool. I mean, if you're willing to, obviously, I think it's great that Splinterlands has the PayPal integration. So if you want to just convert fiat, that's always fantastic, and you can come in through ETH and BNB if you want. But having more direct ways. Again, I didn't know that about Thorchain. I've heard Maya protocol, but I didn't really know what it entailed. So now I have some homework ahead of me to research those a little bit more.
If you have crypto already, it shouldn't be too difficult, right? There's a lot of avenues to get it into Splinterlands. The real difficulty is getting fiat in. And a lot of people are like, well, why don't you do this and that? And it's again comes back to regulations and things. Like, we do not want to get involved with being a money services business in any way. And even the PayPal integration, which has nothing to do with being a money services business because the credits are non-transferable. We're not selling crypto, but it is a large overhead for us, right? That's why we had to implement the KYC checks, because people were able to scam it, and do chargebacks and things. And, we have to it's just tons of crap that we as a company have to deal with. That's time and money that doesn't get to go towards building the product. So in my ideal world, it would be super easy for everybody to get their fiat into crypto and into the game, and we wouldn't need to offer PayPal anymore. And then, we would just have more time and resources available to make a better product. But, we're definitely not there yet. But again, you mentioned the new administration, and like them or not, I expect that that's going to get a lot easier going forward. When, they're not literally telling banks not to work with crypto companies, and the US is trying to be a hub for crypto innovation. I think it'll just be hopefully much, much easier in the near future to start putting money into crypto, and then we'll be able to wire it up to get it into Splinterlands easily. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Gotcha. No, there's just so many things. I mean, from a regulatory standpoint, that you look back, Operation Choke Point 2 or not, they just made life so difficult for anybody in crypto, whether you were building, whether you had some, whether it's like, it is wild to think about how different the world could be, or the country or regulatory framework could be in like a month or two.
And
so
I was
exciting.
I was the most non-political person ever. I didn't care. I didn't vote. Either side was just as good as far as I was concerned. And in my opinion, they all sucked.
Yeah.
So what was the point? It is the first time in my life that there was ever a political party that like was literally out to get me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to put it. I was like, what did I do to you? Like, I wouldn't have cared either way about the election or about politics or about any of it like I used to, if they literally said they're building an anti-crypto army. They're going to shut down. Like, it's like I'm like, what? I don't know. I'm just trying to build cool games, and use this stuff that make them better. So, companies aren't just taking all of our money. It's just basically, to me, it's like the same as Magic the Gathering, which I
Yeah.
loved. Like, why can't I own my cards and sell them to other people? You know what I mean? So what if it's online? Like, why is that worse than if I sell them at a card shop? And it's like, nope, you are a criminal. And I'm like, well, I just can't, like, I have to not support that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like forced me. How could I,
I
you know?
agree. Yeah, no, it's funny because like I just don't understand the whole point of like Bitcoin is that it's, or crypto in general, it's decentralized, right? There should not, it should never have become a partisan issue the way that it did, right? This is like freedom money, freedom technology. It's an American ideal, right? It's exactly what we should be going for. And then to have one side so blatantly against it, just again, not trying to get into the politics of it, but it's just like, whoa, they're not hiding anything. This is like, it's not like a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is the full wolf, and they're just going crazy after it. And then you get the other side, and whether they did this for political gain or not, it doesn't matter, because it's like, hey, they're adopting it. And a lot of the people there, say what you want about Trump, and he's like, have fun with your Bitcoins or whatever. But like the people around him get it, right? The people around him understand why so many of us in this space are so passionate about it. Like the decentralization, the fixed supply, scarcity. And it's like, okay, well, one side is like irrationally against it, and the other side has some smart thinkers and a lot of people that I respect that are really trying to push this forward. So like,
All I was shooting for was even just not irrationally against it.
Yeah,
like that's the bar. Even if they just didn't care about it at all, like we just don't care about this, like that would have been immensely preferable.
Because the thing's like, what, 15 years old? Like, this is a young, burgeoning industry. Like, just keep your hands off of it. Let it go somewhere. Let it grow before you just start coming in and with a sledgehammer to try and regulate it. It's wild to me.
Yeah, and it's like regulating it is fine too, but it was like 100% bad faith. Like they were unable to actually. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't even say you can't do it. They just literally wouldn't say anything, and then just randomly start suing companies. And the companies that went to, there's so many companies like from Coinbase on down that went to them and were like, we would like to work with you and tell us what we can do. And it's not even like they just said you couldn't do it. They, from my understanding, they literally said, we can't tell you. But there were times they were saying, you are illegally trading securities on your platform.
Mm-hmm.
We won't tell you which ones. We won't tell you how to figure out which ones. We are just going to sue you. I mean, like, I try to not think that the world is so corrupt. I try to be like, these people are legitimately like good people trying to do the right thing, and there's some miscommunication, but it just got to the point where like, no, there is no other way to look at it other than like, they don't like this industry and they're doing everything to shut it down, and it doesn't matter whatever, like legal, anything goes completely out the window. And we can only be thankful for the fact that, our court system in the U.S. has just absolutely, I also was thinking, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't understand this. But then when I see court case after court case after court case, the judges sanctioning the SEC and, like just the scathing, comments on how ridiculous it is. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not crazy. It is really how it looks. They're just like flat out corrupt. It's a shame, and we shouldn't really laugh about it.
No, I know. Well, I'm glad that we can laugh about it a little bit now, rather than it being this nightmare scenario. I remember because there was, I think his name is Balaji Srinivasan. He's just like, he's like, dude, the SEC is losing case after case after case. Like government agencies should not be losing cases. They should, first of all, not be getting into cases unless they know that they can win. But now they're getting into the situation where it's just L after L after L. It looks really embarrassing.
And all their cases are against the best companies in the space. And then there's the FTXs and all the scams, and like they're the ones working with the government. Mm-hmm. It's like there's no other way to possibly look at this, no matter how like in a good light you try to view the government. I never thought I could be like more cynical about the government than I was, 5 years ago, but I am. It just gets worse.
Oh man, hold on. We're gonna come back to this in a second, but there's another thing that you opened my eyes to, which I had never thought about before. But you defined anarchy for me, or anarchism, or whatever it is, and all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, I get it now. I thought it's just like lawless people running around, but you said something which was the whole like rules without rulers, and then
Yeah,
I looked
also
into
not
it
my
more.
idea.
I know,
Want to be clear.
but it's just it's just funny that I feel like I've picked up a lot from you. So it's just cool to like obviously have this conversation with you now several years later.
Yeah.
But to go back, for anybody that's not familiar with the whole Coinbase thing, right? Brian Armstrong was trying to be very transparent about it on X or Twitter, and post like the things that were going on. It was very much regulation by enforcement, and the best metaphor that I heard for it, or analogy that I heard, is like they were going to the government and trying to say like, hey, let's like, what are the laws so that we can appropriately follow them? Which again, the best metaphor is, imagine you're driving down the street, there's a police officer, and you ask him what the speed limit is, and he tells you, I can't tell you what it is, but if you're going too fast, I'm going to stop you and give you a ticket. Like that's exactly how it's been the last couple of years. And so that's why it's probably been super frustrating for anybody working in the space.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But also, if you take that backdrop and you look at how crypto and Bitcoin has done in that backdrop, it's also kind of amazing because it's done phenomenally well. So now it's like, well, now the backdrop has completely switched gears. So what's going to happen now? It really could get insane. You mentioned earlier, like, who do I follow? And one of the people I want to mention, where I think a lot of these ideas also came from, or I got a lot of them from, is Eric Voorhees.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever follow him.
I'm familiar with the name, but I don't. I should go.
If there's like one person who I'm like, this guy gets it.
Okay.
Follow him, watch him. He's given a few keynotes at big events.
Mm-hmm.
Like, watch those speeches, because he's, it's just like at a high level, like how the world should be, and how like crypto is, can get us there.
Can get us there. Okay.
A lot of these ideas I feel like I got from him, or from listening to him. He's probably my number one thought leader in the space, I would say.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, now I have somebody new to go follow and dig into some content. All right. I want to be respectful of your time. I know we'll probably start wrapping up soon. So for all the people who are very patient, let's go ahead and do a little Splinterlands related stuff. But as I told you, Matt, I'm not going to ask you when land or when anything. My question for you is this, and I want to set it up appropriately, because you've been working on this project now for 6.5 years. I've had the privilege of being around for maybe half that time, coming up on like 3.5 years. I've seen it evolve so much during my time here, from the little, bits and pieces. And, sometimes you're super candid about this. But it's not all rainbows and butterflies. There have definitely been some times that we're trying, and obviously last year with the whole leadership change and everything. So I'm curious to know, in this moment right now, based on everything that you've gone through with Splinterlands, I assume it's still your baby, right? To a certain extent. But in this moment right now, considering what you've been through, considering where, Bitcoin is and where the future regulatory framework is, considering all the cool stuff that you have coming down the pipeline for Splinterlands, like what does Splinterlands mean to you right now? What is it that this game has become? How has it evolved, and like, what is it to you now?
I mean, I would say it's the same to me now as it always was. I feel like the crypto has just opened up this completely new revolution in almost everything. And this is sort of, I'm a gamer. That's what I like. That's what I like to do. And this is, so this is how I'm applying this entire new world, is through gaming. And like again, I mentioned like Bitcoin and the savings addressed a pain point that I had about retirement savings. So I had a similar pain point in that, like, I played Magic the Gathering. I still collect cards. They're valuable collector's items at this point. I feel like I got a lot out of that, and I like that. And then I lost all of it when we went to the online games, and it was like very obvious, especially like having a family and having to save for retirement and all these things, that I'm just like spending all this money on all these Web 2 games. But it's like, why can't I be buying assets? Like, why can't I be benefiting myself from the time and energy I'm putting into all these projects. And so that's what Splinterlands was about. It's like, oh, now I see, I get it. NFTs and crypto, I get all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, gaming is a great application for it, right? I mean, there's tons of them, obviously money, the main one, but it's social media, gaming, finance, all sorts of other things. But, for me, obviously it was gaming. And then, when we started it, it was just like the very basic thing of like, you can own NFTs and buy and sell them. It's just like physical game cards or items, and you could, I'm putting all this money into Splinterlands, but I look at that as like an investment, basically. Like, it's not just throwing money away that I feel bad about. Like, why can't, part of my retirement savings come from the games I play, if they do well. And then over time, I just keep learning more and new ideas come out, and there's the whole decentralized finance concepts, and I'm like, okay, cool, new stuff. How do we put it into gaming? And just like constantly doing that. And then it's like, okay, what problems do we have? Oh, I have boxes of old Magic cards in the basement, because they keep releasing new sets. I have tons of old Splinterlands cards that aren't doing anything. How can we come up with new, unique ways based on what's going on in the crypto space to give like ongoing additional value to those things, so that's what it is to me. It's just like taking advantage of all this like new things that the goal of all of them is giving value back to the consumers, right? That's the overarching goal of all this, is like, stop just having people just giving all their money to companies and that being a one-way street. Like, consumers should be getting value from their activities. That's the overarching goal. And then it's like, okay, how do we do that more? Okay, now we can have a DAO. Now we can have a token. Like, and then we get that, everything can be sold by the DAO. Like, all the money can, it's just different ways, and just trying all the cool new projects and technologies and blockchains, and how do we integrate that in to just further enhance the experience and get more of the value in the ecosystem, and then going out to the customers.
Yeah, it's, this whole thing that you started with Rebellion about a year ago, selling, like having the DAO sell it, do this kind of revenue share. It's, I mean, you said it, and so I'm not trying to, I'm saying that I'm quoting you here, but I agree wholeheartedly that it is quite revolutionary. When I look at a bunch of other games and trying to like have it be something that benefits the ecosystem as a whole, right? If you're playing this game in any capacity, you're earning SPS. Therefore, you have a stake and a vote in the game to its further direction. And now, all of a sudden, anytime you interact with the game, you are directly benefiting the DAO, which directly holds, the keys to the success of the tokens that you earn and win and hold and stake. And so it's this like nice recursive loop that, again, and I'm not saying that other projects aren't doing it. It's just, it's been really cool to see how.
I don't know other projects that are doing it. Actually,
you know what? I was hedging my bets there.
I hedge too, because maybe there are. I don't know. There's so many projects, it's hard for me to follow them. But that is the number one thing. And when we have like internal marketing discussions, I'm like, well, originally we came out, we were one of the first, and it's like this whole just, oh, you own NFTs and you can buy them and sell them, and they might go up in value. Like, that was the big new thing. And that's still where most of the games are, right? It's still just a company releases a bunch of NFTs, people buy them by just giving money to the company, but then they can resell them, right? And there's a market for them. So that's like one step, right? And that's where most blockchain games still are. But we took it to another step, which is, in my opinion, a much bigger and more important step. And I feel like most people don't know about it. And as part of our marketing plan, I really want to come up with a way to get this message out in a way people understand. I'm not that good at saying it or explaining it, I don't think, but it's like, like going forward since Rebellion, it's really like and even internally, I have to like explain this to everybody, and like, people are like, oh, we need more revenue and we need to sell more stuff. I'm like, no, that's we're doing this a different way. It's the DAO is in a sense the company. So like the players are the ones that own everything, and all the value coming into the game goes to the players. And we, as the company, we're just a participant in this ecosystem with everybody else. And it's so different. It's such an unusual way of thinking. And the real question to me, one of the biggest things for our success in our marketing campaigns is like, can we get people to understand this? It's not just buy some NFTs and they might go up in value and they can sell them. It's really like, and when people still complain when we like post new stuff that's being sold in the game or new features, they're like, oh, it's a money grab or whatever. Like you guys I'm like, do you guys understand? Like you get all the money. We're not getting any of the money.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's so like, and the player mindset shouldn't be like, oh, you need to spend so much to be, at whatever level in the game. It's like, that's awesome, because it's your game. Like if it's your game, you're going to want it to cost a lot and to be cool enough that everyone like puts in this much money because it's going to you. And that's how, so you have to think it's like you're half a player and half an owner. Right, really, when you're playing this game, and it should be like, oh, it's so awesome. So I don't know. I still feel like I'm struggling to really articulate this well.
It's new, man. It's really new. But what encourages me is the fact that they're, through all the thick and thin of the last couple of years, there is this hardcore group of Splinterlands players that just gets it, right? Early on, I was just like, man, like these guys just have like this blind faith in Matt and Aggie, and I'm like, I don't know, this is kind of weird. But then like over time, you start to understand a little bit more of like, oh, okay, now I get what they're trying to build. Oh, now I get why people are just like really supportive of this, because it's very different. It's something unique, and there's a value here that's being built and preserved that I'm not like you said, I'm not seeing it anywhere. Granted, my eyes aren't everywhere. I don't know every project that's going on, but there's really some, like I said, it's really encouraging to see some people that have gotten it, because that to me is a proof of concept, right? If some people get it, then it's just a matter of getting it out to the other people and finding others who believe, who it clicks for them, they believe in it. And you don't need them to come in with like $100,000. But if they believe in what it is and they like the game, they like the project, they'll slowly do the same thing that all of us have been doing the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, right? So this is a new concept, the stuff I've just been talking about with all the money going to the DAO and the tokens and the players. Like that wasn't the case in the past, especially in the last bull market. And to be fair, in the last bull market, it was just the company selling stuff, and people gave a lot of money to the company, and the company did not spend that wisely, right? We made poor use of those funds. So it's not surprising we are where we are now, and a lot of people got disillusioned with that. And so the key is to understand that is not how things are set up anymore, right?
Yeah.
Purposely, the main thing was to make sure, for me, that things were not set up that way. So assuming if we do go into another bull market, we've never had a bull market where things are set up this way, where the money is going to the players and going to the community and going to the assets, and it's not directly going to the company. So it can't be poorly spent unless the community of SPS holders decides to do so. And so that is also what's super exciting to me. We've set it all up this way, but it doesn't really work until a lot of money starts coming into it.
Yeah.
Right? We don't really get to see the benefits of this system right now. It's like, okay, it works like this, great. Asset prices still suck, so who cares, right? But so I'm very interested and excited to see us go through a bull market period where things are set up this way. That's what's super exciting for me.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have run these numbers internally, but I think I did like a video a while back kind of covering, again, we're getting into a bull market. We talked about all the tailwinds, and it's like, hey, you know what? Eye in the pie, or was it a pie in the sky kind of numbers? If the 6.5 million packs for Conclave Arcana were to sell out because it's releasing not at the tail end of a bull run like Chaos Legion, but hopefully during like the middle of a raging one, if it did, that's like, I think over 40 billion DEC, and I cannot imagine what that would do to like everything in the ecosystem if that were to happen, right?
Yeah, and the cool thing is how that money again doesn't go to the company.
Yes, exactly. Well,
only a portion of it, half of it.
Yeah.
But
we sold double that amount of packs with Chaos Legion, so that I know people are going to look and be like, oh, that's never going to happen. I'm like, hey, last bull run people got a little crazy. if some people just get a little crazy, or like literally half as crazy with like 6 million packs, I mean, this thing could get really wild. And to your point, and I appreciate the fact that you kind of addressed that head on, right? I think that's probably one of the biggest criticisms, legitimate criticisms out there about how things have gone. But communicating where things are at now and what you guys are trying to do, I think is incredibly important. And you've been doing it for over a year now, and some people are still struggling to like grasp that, right? I still get all the comments of like, oh, money grab. I'm like, dude, who's getting the money? Like just critical thinking. Where's like, who's getting the money? But yeah, I know we're coming up to the end of the hour here, and I appreciate the time. I want to give you a chance, just if there's anything that you want to talk about, anything that you want to shill about the game. And if you don't have anything, then I am going to ask one final question, and I'm going to hold you to this. What is the most excited thing you're most excited about in Splinterlands? I don't want you to be like, oh, all this stuff that's happening. If you could pick, whether it's survival mode or game or land or whatever.
You mean a particular feature?
Yeah, a particular feature that like you as a player, as the CEO, as a player, just everything, your relationship with Splinterlands. Like, what is that one thing that you're like, oh, I really hope this goes super well because I want to play it, or I want the community to understand how cool it is, or whatever it is.
I want to say two things, and here's the reason.
You break my rule already, Matt. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Go for it.
Keep it interesting. So I want to say land, right? That's my real answer. My real answer is land.
Fair.
Because that's been something that I've been working on and ideating on. It's been for so long, and I think it's so it's such a cool concept that will really completely change the face of the game and like take what we're trying to do with this whole in-game economy and value going to players to a whole new level. The reason I want to add one other thing is just because I know, unfortunately, land, the full vision is still so far out. Now, obviously, if there's a really a big bull run and we have a lot more resources, hopefully we can do that faster. But you did mention survival mode. So that one is one I'm super excited about, not necessarily just for the initial release of survival mode, but just having a new game mode that works that way, where it encourages people to get more than one copy of cards. I think we can do so much with that, like going forward, that it's going to also really add a ton to the game in the very near future. So like in the near term, that's what I'm the most excited about. Longer term, I'm most excited about land.
What's interesting is I've like conflated those two as well, because obviously your vision for land is exciting because it is revolutionary, right? Trying to give value and utility to all these like older cards that people may no longer use in battles or whatever. But it almost seemed like this survival mode, and I think you kind of alluded to it here, survival mode is like the short-term fix, where it's like, okay, while land is still being developed because it is this behemoth of a project, survival mode is going to give you a chance to like get that second string Pelacor bandit on your bench back into the game, give him some utility, since at this point like nobody's renting it, right? There's no other utility for it. So I'm excited about survival mode. Is that see now I don't want to get you in trouble, and I'm not sure. Is that something we can expect early Q1, simply because
100%.
The team was trying to get it before the end of the year.
The reason is because we specifically stripped it down to the barest minimum that we could do as quickly as possible, because it's so new and so different. I don't want to try to guess what the right thing to do is. So it's like, we just want to get this new concept out real quick, real simply, see how it goes, and we're going to iterate on it a lot. It's just like people are like, oh, well, this is going to happen or that's going to happen, and it's like, I don't really know. It could either go either way. And then instead of us trying to guess and get things wrong, I just want to get it out there and see how this whole thing works with the cards, dying and going on cooldown. And then take it from there and just see what other cool things can come out of it. So that's why I'm like super excited about it. It's not just like the mode itself, but it's all the opportunity that can come out of it. And from early on in the game, we kind of, even at the very beginning, there was this sort of like concept that cards might have their own energy. Like before we had this energy system and limited battles, it was like, oh, maybe a card could only play like 5 battles and had to like rest or something. And none of that ever made it into the game. But from like an economy standpoint, it makes sense that the cards themselves are the energy. And obviously when we went with just every account gets energy, that led us to bot army issues and like a lot of the problems that happened. So I'm like, you know what? We need to go back to that idea. And this is the first kind of iteration on that thought process. And who knows, in the future, like this could be the mode, right? Maybe this is more popular than the other modes. Like I have no idea, but that's why I'm so excited for it, because it puts into play this concept that we've kind of had around since the very beginning that we're finally getting to try out.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to cover or you wanted to share? Like I said, I want to be respectful of your time.
No, it was cool to talk about like the ecosystem in general, because it is important for Splinterlands also. And yeah, I hope people, the Splinterlands we also look at as like an entryway into crypto and into Bitcoin. So hopefully there's a lot of people that like come in and start playing Splinterlands and start learning about Bitcoin and, maybe converting some of their Splinterlands stuff into Bitcoin, and that becomes their retirement savings. So, yeah, that's what, part of my hope is that this is a vehicle for people to learn about this space and get involved who wouldn't otherwise have.
Cool. Well, I will tell you this. I am very excited for 2025 for a multitude of reasons, especially when it comes to crypto. But you guys have a very full agenda, it seems like, for Q1. And I hope that intertwines well with whatever's going to happen with Bitcoin and, the new administration and everything coming up. It's like I'm enjoying like the end of the year and the holidays. I don't want to like rush through that, but at the same time, I'm like, I can't wait for January. This is going to be exciting. So
yeah, it's an unusual feeling, but I agree. We'll see. Things could get pretty crazy.
Love it, man. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna hop off here. Matt, stick around for just a second. Sure. I may stream again later today. We'll see what my time looks like, but if not, I will see you guys tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Happy Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, whatever time it is. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.